That's the thing about Canon. I mean, Canon's a weird. Every time I talk about my love of Canon
Mhm.
movies, I get a little bit of criticism because Menachem Begin and Yoram Globus, who founded the Canon Film Group,
Menachem
I
Begin didn't. He was the president of Israel, but
oh my God,
that's
Menachem Golan
global. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But I just want to make sure people know that
mixing up the Menachems.
we
Uh,
he did not
but
have a movie studio and be president.
Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus, if their movies are any indication, did not have the most enlightened of politics. And in fact, they even made, this is relevant now, they even made like a literal Israeli
Yeah,
propaganda film
Delta Force.
called Operation
Oh,
Thunderbolt
Thunderbolt.
with
What?
Klaus Kinski and Sybil Danning. It was for some reason, I guess Sybil Danning and Klaus Kinski are working with Arab terrorists in that movie. I mean, it's bizarre stuff, but they're kind of like these meathead filmmakers. I mean, I think Menachem Golan loved movies by every indication. You can even see it in a movie like Enter the Ninja, where there's a whole scene dedicated to making references to how the film business
Mhm.
works. But they definitely did not have necessarily the most enlightened of views. And some of their movies today, especially the two Alan Quatermain movies,
Ooh,
King Solomon's
yes.
Mines and the sequel, which both had, I believe Sharon Stone
Yes.
was in both of
Yep.
those. They do not have a very
Richard
good
Chamberlain
view of
is Alan Quatermain.
right. Well, I mean, they have some really messed up views on Arabs in those movies and colonialism. That
Yeah.
being said, I don't take Canon Film Group movies too seriously. I just view them as so ludicrous that it's hard to take it seriously politically. That's sort of, I just have fun
Well,
with them.
that's
But
that's where
I
Canon films get kind of it's important for us to kind
mhm,
of bring that out and say that,
mhm,
because you have to acknowledge the fact that they are propaganda films. There is no kind of they are propaganda. They are Israeli propaganda films that kind of make coonish images out of Arabs. And we have to be honest with
right.
that. They go out of their way to do that. Um, and that's why some of those movies are extremely problematic. And we're talking about the most famous ones, the Delta Forces. I think Operation Thunderbolt did quite well for them, um, because that was a thing in the Cold War 80s.
Mhm.
And excuse me, if you think about to this day, even the way Americans, the average American, views the term terrorist, it's through the lens of those movies.
Right.
It's a
That's sort
brown
of, they were part of
person.
a pop culture moment with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it still is the dominant thought process when we think of the term terrorist. We think the Hamas terror attacks, right? Brown people that are religious fundamentalists killing people for no good reason. And that was beyond canon. There were other people that made movies like that. One of my favorite hate watches, I shouldn't say hate watch because it is pretty funny. Frank Stallone tried to make a Sly Stallone movie called Terror in Beverly Hills.
You know what's sad? I actually know that movie.
Oh, oh. I posted it because I was watching it one night for the first time. I didn't watch it until maybe a year ago. And I posted on Instagram, and then Frank Stallone started following me. And I thought it was cool because, like, oh, it's Frank Stallone. He sang the song in Saturday Night Fever. Which one is the sequel to the John Travolta movie where he's disco dancing? This is the
I'm
end.
blanking. I
Staying
thought it
Alive.
was called, yeah,
Staying
Staying
Alive.
Alive.
So I'm like, oh, Frank Stallone. And then I go on his page. Yikes. Woo. Big Trump guy. Pretty reactionary. Definitely not a fan of brown people. Um, but he made an amazing action film called Terror in Beverly Hills. There are no ninjas in it, sadly. There might as well be because he plays a karate guy that's really karatified. And he worked with Muslims, and then all of a sudden he hates Muslims all at the same time, and it makes no sense. Watch it,
Don't you
just
hate it
watch
when
it.
that happens? I've seen that with like I used to I well I still love his movies, but like Robert Davi turned out to be like a super right-wing dude. And then the
Mm-hmm.
one that kills me is Rhonda Shear from USA. Up All Night turns out to be
Really?
like hardcore MAGA. Yeah.
You're
It's just like,
shocked?
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
shocked.
I'm sorry,
I'm
JG.
disappointed.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Okay, that's fair. Thank you, Mercutio, for the super chat. Guys, tonight we're gonna be playing ninja movie clips because we can't talk about ninjas without playing ninja movie clips, and because of that, there's a great chance that YouTube's gonna say you can't monetize the show. Most shows that we do, I would say 99% of the shows we do, we have to have a second review, regardless of what Ben Burgess has had shows that they wouldn't let us monetize. So thank you for the super chat. We're definitely going to need it. No ninja fetish films because you never see them coming. That's funny. That actually is really funny.
Assassins. The greatest ninja warrior vows to give up killing.
My sword is sealed forever.
But a ninja cannot escape his destiny. It will follow him from the gardens of Japan to the streets of America.
Get those people out of here.
The heroin spilled out.
Damn it!
He's caught in a drug war between the American mafia and the Japanese Yakuza.
Are you trying to tell me there's ninjas running around there killing people in the 20th century?
Strong.
The Black Ninja. A disciple of evil who kills for pleasure. Only a ninja can stop a ninja. Now, as the police look on helplessly, high above the streets of Los Angeles, he must fight the killer who was once a friend. Ancient Japanese warfare explodes in America. It's the ultimate martial arts adventure. No one can survive. The Revenge of the Ninja. Revenge of the Ninja.
That's funny. There is, before we talk about Sho Kosugi, he was part of the Ninja trilogy that starts it all off. Actually, no, let's talk about this and I'll play the clip. So the ninja movie that I think is ground zero for ninja stuff in the American context is The Octagon. Can you tell us a little bit about The Octagon since you just watched it, JG?
I just watched The Octagon probably about an hour or two ago. It's a Chuck Norris vehicle of sorts. I still don't understand the plot because it's very convoluted. International terrorists killing an ambassador. Somehow Chuck Norris gets involved and has to stop the ninjas who are working with the terrorists. And it's a very weird movie because throughout the whole thing, there's these inner monologues that Chuck Norris has where it's not Chuck Norris's voice doing the monologue. They got a different person to do the voice, which is actually great because it gave Chuck Norris actual personality. I swear to God, Chuck Norris is Walker, Texas Corpse. That dude has the personality of a zombie or maybe a wooden plank. So it's a fun movie in a lot of ways. I don't hold it in as high regard as the Canon ninja movies, but it's, it's got Lee Van Cleef in it. That makes me happy. And also the first role of Richard Norton, who did a lot of martial arts movies. He
Really?
plays the red ninja in it. So
I also love the colored ninjas. Like, who was the guy we were joking about the other night? Ho is his last name.
Oh, Godfrey Ho.
Godfrey Ho.
We'll get into Godfrey Ho because I want to.
We have to bring up Godfrey Ho. Even though we're talking about the Canon trilogy, you also can't talk about ninja movies without talking about Godfrey Ho, because by the time he starts making ninja movies with like they almost look like aerobics people, and they have the headband that says ninja on it.
Right. Well, not only that, but he would what Godfrey Ho would do is he would take these films that were made in like Hong Kong and then be like, okay, I'm gonna hire Richard Harrison, who was a big Western star back in the day, and I'll film scenes with him, and then we'll splice it together. It's almost like how Power Rangers worked. Where it's like you
Yes,
would have like
yes.
the American scenes and then the Japanese film scenes, and you would squash them together. But that's what Godfrey Ho did, and it's interesting. This is why I'm kind of I'll defend Canon films at times, just
Mhm.
because I think if you were to watch a Godfrey Ho film side by side with Canon, I think there's a lot more. I don't know if professionalism is the right word, but there's I think the Canon sort of films are more visually interesting, whereas those Godfrey Ho movies, they're fun, but they feel slapped together, man.
There's slapdash. And I think there's something to be said about Canon not making slapdash films, regardless of the budget. They're like, no, we're going to make a movie. We're not going to just grab scenes from another movie. I mean, how many times has Roger Corman used the same spaceship in a movie?
Oh, God.
I forget how many times he's done, and they'll invert it. He has no problem using the same monsters, same backs. He has no problem doing that because he understands got to get the movie made as cheap as possible. And even though Canon had the same mentality, I think there's something to be said about them really seeing themselves as like auteurs. I mean, look at the movie like The Apple.
Right.
That
I
they
was going to
did.
bring up The Apple because if people don't know, Menachem Golan made The Apple. It got shown at the Montreal Film Festival. It got booed so badly they gave out complimentary CDs of this of the soundtrack for this movie. And after the movie, people threw the CDs at the screen. And Menachem Golan actually was so devastated by this that he went up to his hotel room and was going to jump out his window and off himself. And his business partner had to talk him down. So, I mean, Menachem Golan, for all his faults, there is something, as someone who loves film, this is a man who really did love movies. I mean, he grew up in Tel Aviv. All he did was watch movies. He was like, he would literally forego, having basic like necessities like a refrigerator in his life to go to movies instead. So, I mean, he's obsessed with movies, and it does come out, I think, in the Canon films. And it is something that I kind of appreciate, but definitely an eccentric Menachem Golan.
Oh, I mean, think about the Breakin' movies. You don't
Right.
get that Fred Astaire scene with Boogaloo Shrimp on the ceiling in Breaking 2 unless the people making it, have that film background. Hey, let's get the set. I think they actually had the set, the revolving set that Fred Astaire had. So, I they're complicated.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the best way to put it. And I should have mentioned this earlier, but if people want a really good assessment or critical assessment of 80s movies, especially Canon movies, and how they portrayed Arabs, there's a book by Jack Sheehan called Real Bad Arabs, which is
Ooh,
highly
yeah.
recommended by me.
Yeah, I always forget the name of that book.
Right, Real, Reel. I love that title. It's what's interesting to me though about Canon is Menachem Golan starts out doing the Lemon Popsicle films, which were basically like, I think they were made before the Porky's movies, but they're
Yes.
basically Israeli teen sex comedies.
Yeah.
They
Last
eventually
American Virgin.
remade them. They remade the Lemon Popsicle movie as The Last American Virgin for American audiences, and I'm not sure American audiences got it. Your friend Diane Franklin is in that movie, actually, but it's they literally worked in almost every genre imaginable, and usually in a way that you would never expect. Like I was watching the 1990 or the 1989 Phantom of the Opera movie with Robert Englund, which was not Canon. I think it was 21st Century Film Group, which was Menachem Golan after Canon.
After they left.
And I'm watching this movie, and it's literally like a combination of Sam Raimi's The Dark Man, The Phantom of the Opera, and it switches between 1980s New York and the 1800s in Paris. And it's just a really bizarre movie, but only Canon was willing to do things that were that out there, and in the weird world of Canon, it all makes sense, as we'll find out with the ninja movies.
Oh yeah. As so Sho Kosugi, who is the bad ninja in the first ninja movie, Enter the Ninja, Originally, that movie was going to star Mike Stone. So the story is that Mike Stone was one of the actors on The Octagon, and he was friends with Chuck Norris. He hustled his way into the Canon Films office with a script for Enter the Ninja, and it was called something different. I can't remember. And after talking to him for a while, they're like, fine, we'll make it. And he was going to be the main guy. They didn't like him, so they kicked him off. Then they brought him back as a stunt coordinator. And I think he actually is in one of the Ninja trilogy. And he introduced him to Sho Kosugi, who was just also a stunt guy in LA. And they took a flyer on Sho and like, we'll make you the bad guy in this, because he did a ninjutsu demonstration for them. And for the good guy, they wanted someone with worldwide appeal. So Frank Nero, who actually did a lot of those spaghetti westerns, he's an Italian actor, had a global audience. And I didn't know that was why they got him, because they overdub his lines in the movie because he's got an accent. He also doesn't know how to fight. And one of the greatest scenes in that movie is him with nunchucks.
So there you are.
Perhaps we'd better give in, sir.
Now we can talk. If you want your Mr. Parker alive, you better listen to me.
Who said I wanted Mr. Parker alive?
But, sir...
Now, wait, Ninja, wait. Why don't we speak like civilized men? You are a ninja, a hired assassin. Why don't you come to work for me? A position has become vacant.
I'm not for hire.
Then what were you doing working for Frank Landers?
He was my friend. You killed him, and now I'm gonna kill you.
Shirtless. So for a hairy man with a mustache, Frank Nero, who's got the chest hair of a 70s shag carpet, his ability to be a suave, sexy ninja gave me confidence. Still does. Still does.
Yeah, my understanding too is that they had fired the original guy that was supposed to play the Franco Nero character,
Mike Stone. Yeah.
And then they were in Manila, and I guess there was a film festival, and they're like, oh, he's at this restaurant, and I think Menachem Cullen went and talked to him and was like, we really need you for this movie. And it's that's the beauty of these movies, though, is like, these movies are made in almost like a car crash type way, where they're just rushing to do a lot of things. Menachem Golan would say, no, we have to add this. No, take this out. There needs to be more TNA. There needs to be more, and yet somehow it all sort of comes together and works. And what's weird to me, it works on this level of like sort of juvenile cinema. And I mean, to me, that's what these movies are. They're movies that you watch in the same way that you watch like an old episode of like WWF wrestling in the early 90s. It's there's very much like even though these are R-rated movies, there's like a juvenilia to it that I really dig. If you can like let go of logic for a second. And by the way,